Hello, I'm Kellijett Murphrey. I will be presenting on the biofuel ethanol, how ethanol is made, its carbon footprint, economic impact, and more. Bioethanol is a form of renewable energy that can be produced from agricultural crops. In the U.S., it is commonly mixed with gasoline in a blend of approximately 15% ethanol and 85% gasoline. Ethanol is a clear liquid with the chemical formula CH3CH2OH. Some alternative names of ethanol include ethyl alcohol, grain alcohol, or the abbreviation ETOH. The three primary sources for making ethanol are corn, cellulosic, which are substances made from cellulose, or sugarcane. Corn is the primary source of ethanol in the U.S., and sugarcane is the primary source of ethanol in Brazil. The production of ethanol is a biological process that uses sophisticated techniques and equipment. The three primary sources for making ethanol are corn, cellulosic, or sugarcane, as mentioned before. They each follow a very similar process to be made into ethanol. For corn, it first arrives at the facility and enters the milling, slurry, and liquefaction and saccharification processes. First, corn quality is checked. Then the corn is ground into a fine granular consistency to form cornmeal. The cornmeal is mixed with water for forming a mixture called mash. The mash is converted into complex sugars by adjusting the pH and adding enzymes to the mixture. This mixture is then heated to kill any unwanted bacteria, and then it is cooled to be sent to the fermentation part of the process. An enzyme is added to break the complex sugars down further. Next, yeast is added to start the fermentation process. During the fermentation process, carbon dioxide is released and the sugars are converted into ethanol. Then the distillation process begins. The ethanol is pumped into the distillation towers where heat is added to separate the pure ethanol from the other liquids and solids. The condenser, the last part of distillation, turns the ethanol vapor back into a liquid. The leftovers from the distillation process are used to create other renewable fuels such as biodiesel. Finally, the ethanol passes through a molecular sieve to remove any small amounts of remaining water. This results in a final ethanol product of 99% ethanol. Then ethanol is then stored or shipped to be used. Cellulosic and sugarcane have a similar but different process. Cellulosic goes through a different treatment than corn, but then follows the same process of fermentation, product recovery, distillation, dehydration, and the product ethanol. Sugarcane enters the process at the fermentation step, then follows the same process. To promote the research and production of ethanol and other biofuel research and development, the Energy Policy Act of 2005 was created. It used a variety of economic incentives to promote biofuel research and development. The Energy Independence and Security Act of 2007 included similar economic incentives. This act expanded the renewable fuel standard to increase biofuel production to 36 billion gallons by 2022. Of the 36 billion gallons, 21 billion gallons must come from the cellulosic biofuel and other advanced biofuels derived from feedstock other than corn starch. This research and development efforts led to ethanol being used widespread as a biofuel that is blended with gasoline. Greenhouse gas emissions are on average reduced by 40% with corn-based ethanol and 88 to 108% with cellulosic-based ethanol compared to gasoline and diesel emissions. This is true because the carbon dioxide released by a vehicle when ethanol is burned is offset by the carbon dioxide captured when the feedstock crops are grown to produce ethanol. Being able to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by over 100% with cellulosic-based ethanol will have an incredibly positive impact on our carbon footprint on the world. Ethanol production creates over 62,000 jobs directly and over 242,000 jobs indirectly in the U.S. Many of those jobs are in rural areas where employment opportunities are needed. Ethanol production brings in over $35 billion to the gross domestic product and $19 billion in household incomes. Ethanol is the most common biofuel worldwide. In the graph in the lower right-hand corner, you can see the number of liters of ethanol depicted in light blue, biodiesel depicted in dark blue, and HVO depicted in green. Ethanol is by far the greatest biofuel being produced. Overall, global ethanol production has continued to increase since 2007. Together, the United States and Brazil produce 84% of the world's ethanol. Ethanol is growing worldwide in its use as a transportation fuel. On the research side, scientists are experimenting with the alternative and more efficient sources of bioethanol. For example, experiments are currently being conducted using algae to produce bioethanol. Algae is grown in sunlight to stimulate photosynthesis, therefore allowing the algae to directly produce ethanol without having to harvest it. Increased research in this area will greatly impact biofuel development. Here are links to the resources I used to learn more about ethanol. These were very informative and helpful. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me to learn about the biofuel ethanol. Have a wonderful day.